Hey everybody, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I want to show you how you can create very easily this adorable, gorgeous dress with matching hat in acrylic step by step. I'm going to explain to you every step of the process so you can make this for yourself at home. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi guys.
He's going to track us with all of our cameras so you can see every part of the process. That's going to make it easier for you to duplicate it for yourself. Now, in this particular lesson, I really like these more beginner-friendly lessons because it lets us get more and more brave new art adventurers to come on and try art for the first time. So I want to specifically reach out to anyone that's a first-time painter today. And I just want you to let you know what you need to do. The only thing that you need to do is just your best. I think it's really important when we begin an art journey to remember that everything is not about perfection. It's not about starting a thing the very first time and being the most amazing ever. It's about believing in yourself and knowing that you can do something. And all you've got to do is follow along with the steps. I'm going to paint a thing. You're going to paint a thing. I'm going to paint a thing. You're going to paint a thing. And at the end of this, we're both going to have a painting of a dress and a hat. Yours is not supposed to look exactly like mine. It's supposed to be like you because you're an individual and I'm an individual. We've already got copy machines and we're never going to beat those for doing what they do, which is making duplicates. And you're not a duplicate. You're an original. I think I'm ready to get on into this painting, John.
All right.
All right, let's turn around and get into it. So excited about this one. So this is a lot of fun. The background's nice and simple. The shapes and objects are simple. If you don't draw, like today, you're like, man, I haven't done anything since grade school, but specifically you don't draw, that's okay because on the website listed in the description below with all of the materials is a link to our website. And on that website is a free downloadable traceable so that you can transfer it on. If you check the iCard and also the webpage, you'll see a video about how to use a traceable. So even if that's really new to you, it's okay. You've got the support that you need to succeed at this project. And that's what today is about. Succeeding at this project. Not being perfect, but succeeding. Don't you think that's a nice plan, John?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all coffeeed up. Can you tell? Let's all sippy. Swamp family members everywhere. Tip, tip.
I'm ready.
So let's look at the materials.
Okay.
Today I have a 9x12 surface. This is an artboard. They come in packs. On here, as we are wont to do, we've got a couple wishes or intentions that are given to us by our community. And the first one is wishes for Allie and Katrina to have fast healing and a full recovery. Their family's really worried about them, and we just want them to heal. Also, healing and love for Agnes. She's been in a long extended stay in the hospital. It's hard for her to paint, but she's been doing drawings, which John and I seriously applaud her ability to keep being creative. And of course, that this video does really, really well and finds all the people it can help the most. Now, to begin our journey, we're going to start out with a fabulous color called Burnt Umber. If you're in our book club, you read a little bit about Burnt Umber this last week, which was super fun. And so I always enjoy reading about colors because they always have such interesting histories. Colors have interesting histories. There it is. Sometimes you look for a color and you cannot find a color. I'm going to put out Phthalo Blue. This is Phthalo Blue. You don't have to use the exact brand of paint that I'm using. That's not a necessary requirement for this project. Grab a nice wide brush that'll let you cover a lot of canvas easily. You're going to dip it in water, drag off the extra water, and you're going to just mix a little of your burnt umber and your blue together. You can see what I do is I come to the blue and I pull it out, and I come to the brown and I pull it out. And then I'm going to flip over my brush and pull it out. I'm going to flip over. That's the way we want to load the brush. Now, when we go to put it on the surface, let's just dip the edges right into the water. And we're going to come here and just very loosely brush off the color. And I think you're going to be really surprised at that interesting result. Yeah. It may not be what you expected. And I like that about colors and paint.
It's an interesting blue.
It is. It's got like a blue-green quality to it. It's very neutral. Umber does a wonderful job of taking the bright, powerful blue that is phthalo blue and knocking it back a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah. When you hear artists say knocking it back, woo, Woo, there goes my hairdryer. When you hear an artist say knocking it back, if you're watching my tutorials or another, what we mean is we're taking the saturation out and allowing the color to pull in and settle into the canvas in a more neutral way. So it's not coming forward into our eye, overwhelming us. Again, notice that I'm pulling and flipping, and then we're going to come right here.
So this isn't a true black. It's more of a chromatic.
This is a chromatic. Look at you. Look, he's so good. He follows all the videos. John doesn't paint, actually. He can. He doesn't do so much, but he's become super informed watching the show.
Well, I'm like an armchair quarterback. I know all the plays, just never run them.
I get it. I get it. You're actually quite talented, though. Pulling out a little more blue, and you'll see that flip motion. Then I'm going to pull out the brown in the flip motion. That's the correct way you're going to want to load the brush. That's an important thing to know, right?
Yeah.
How do you load a brush? Now,
very carefully.
Very carefully. An important thing to know about acrylic paint is all brands of acrylic paint don't necessarily perform the same. I'm just going to continue this. So you may need to give yourself a couple coats. I'm going to soft blend this a little bit with my dry brush.
What is that?
This is just a nice dry brush, and
what is soft blending?
A soft blending means that I'm going to create nice little sweet transitions from one little color shift to the next, kind of mimicking the effect that we get from oils. It takes out the streaky hard edges of my brush strokes.
Oh, making it sort of that bokeh-y background kind of.
Yeah, letting all those little values kind of soften out. You can see it's just nice little transitions. Yeah. I'm going to rinse this out and put this to the side for a second. I'm going to find my hairdryer, which has taken a little journey. And I'm going to dry this. And the reason I'm going to demo a couple coats, because I know many of you are painting student paints at home, like Loft or Basics or System 3, and you may be getting a streaky effect. So here, let me show you right now how you get that in hand.
So while she's doing that, I'll say, make sure you use the hairdryer on the lowest heat setting, especially with darker colors, because as you can see, okay, so all acrylic paint has a tendency to lighten as it dries. It's called color shift. And student paints tend to do that more than professional paint. And heat will make that happen faster. So,
but it's not, you don't ever feel bad about the paint that you're using.
It's just a characteristic.
It's a characteristic. I like that wording for it. The characteristic. All paint has a characteristic, and it's learning how to get our paint to work to its best characteristics, put its best foot forward, which helps us really great art. I'm getting the brush wet again a little bit and back into the paint, as you've seen, this proper load, working that through.
We got our little reference photo here. It's not been super easy to fit that in there today. But
really?
Well,
some days it's like that, right?
Yeah, some days it's just we're better off just using the camera angle, because you're very movie today.
I'm very movie today, and you'll see me moving very quickly. It's sort of fun to move quickly. If you've never painted before, you can be, that clip is not working today.
We need a new holster.
I think we do. I think the holster is just not doing it.
That was a temporary one.
What you're going to see as I do my two coats is that the canvas, while remaining quite painterly, that means that you can see that it's done with paint. It doesn't look like it's created some other way. I'm going to go ahead and maybe take a soft brush if I need to, just softening out any edges that I want. So the trick about this softening is that your brush needs to be quite soft. It shouldn't shed. It shouldn't leave any brush strokes. This brush is almost the consistency of a makeup brush. If you're wondering what it is, it's a 1-inch silver ultimate varnish brush. And while it is a fantastic varnish brush, for sure, I really actually quite like it for blending. It has replaced all my mops because it doesn't hold too much water when I pull it out with a towel. Now that I have that wonderful even finish, I can put out some of my other paint colors I'll be using, and I'll talk to you about why we're using those today and things that you can do as a student to make it work on the palette that you are painting from, because that's very important. Let's take a minute. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, because we hold our breath when we paint. I know I do, especially if I'm concentrating.
I hold my breath when I camera.
You hold your breath when you camera. And we're going to talk about having two whites. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put out some titanium white. This is probably the most common color in white that you can find across every line of paint. It's very opaque. It's very powerful, which is why we like to, for something delicate like this, add a transparent white. Now, this is tint white. You could also find tint white called zinc white or mixing white. Those will all be essentially the same. I do include those exchanges on the website so you're not struggling to find them. All right, so this is the first thing. And then we're going to put out Phthalo blue and Phthalo green together. I have a little Phthalo blue over here I may dip back into, but I just really want to pull these out a bit because we're going to be making a color called Phthalo turquoise. Now you can buy Phthalo turquoise, but it's fun to make. I'm going to use a tool called an artist knife to get a nice even mix. You can use a brush as well. Just mix it on your brush, but I'm going to take about half and half of this, right? If you don't have an artist knife, let me show you a way you can do it with a brush. I'm going to be putting on extra paint over what I need, but I don't want you to be worried. If I just had a brush, this is what I'd do. I'd put out this much of the green. See that one part little green?
Mm-hmm.
This much of the blue. And then I would just take the brush that I was going to be using. Oh, maybe a round will do us better because it won't take so much of our paint. Let's just use a round to mix them. I'm going to dip this in water. And then you can just mix them with a nice round brush like this. So if you didn't have an artist knife, that's how you would get that done. So there we go. We have two Phthalo turquoises. Two ways to do it. When you can get the palette knives, I recommend that you do, but don't rush yourself. Because the important thing is that you paint today. I'm going to try to get this back again. I'm going to draw this again so that I can use a little chalk and talk about how we're going to lay this out. And again, if you don't want to draw, traceable.
Mm-hmm. And you can find the traceable on the website on a link in the description down below. So that's just a easy way for you to transfer the image onto the website, onto the surface, so that you don't have to draw, which I don't do myself. So they're very good. Oh, they're also good coloring pages if you have little brushes around.
They're really good coloring pages.
Just saying.
And they're all free. Just download them, color them up. I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. So
just sniff in the Java. Watch this.
Let me do. I'm gonna say some.
Yeah,
it's very good stuff. We can
Getting
find
all those senses involved is important.
You can find Zen in coffee. Sure.
For sure. Now, if you divided your canvas mentally in half, right? So this is the halfway mark, and then you divide from here and here again mentally in half. That's about where I have put my dress. I'm going to make a nice line. This is kids' chalk. You could use kids' chalk, pastel, or watercolor pencil, but I wouldn't use a crayon or an oil pastel because you wouldn't be able to remove that. I can so you can remove it with your finger pretty easily. All right, so that lets me know where I'm going to place the dress. Now, I don't want to take up so much with my hanger that it's running up to the edge of the canvas, so I have to leave some room. In sewing terms, sometimes people refer to that as a salvage edge. And I'm going to draw my hanger. I like drawing hangers, which is, of course, like the question mark. And then I'll come across here. And then I kind of make a little scoop down. These are those high-end wood hangers. Now, they're wonderful to show off these beautiful dresses. Now, this dress is definitely inspired by fashion illustration. I think fashion illustration is a fabulous art form, and it's just wonderful for decor. So I'm going to scoop a beautiful little neckline here. The neckline is about 1.5 inches, 2 inches down, depending on how steep you want that neckline, right? So that would be our neckline. And then we need to have a waistline. Now, I suggest you make this as tapered as you like, but what you're basically doing is making an inward parentheses, using that line as your guide. And then I can come down here and sort of draw in my bust line. You see how we're doing there? Drawing in that little bust line.
Yeah.
If I ever need to erase, I just take a brush. Watch this. with water. And I can very easily erase any extra lines that are visually confusing. Isn't that interesting? So that's how I like to use kids' chalk. It's a little hard because I don't have a point today.
I think I could probably find you a Sherpa.
Oh, it's all right. I think we're all right for today's show.
Yeah, probably.
So the trick about these proportions is that you'll want the hips to be about the same as even the implied bust line in the dress, right? Coming here, even though we're going to exaggerate that. Now I'm going to make a nice line scooping down that way. And of course, we're going to pull the dress back that way. That's quite lovely, isn't it? That's the construct of what we're going to do on our dress. Now our hat's going to come over here. So if again, divided in the middle mentally, right? And then we divide again in the middle, and we're going to come down because you need room to hang your hat. Everybody needs room to hang your hat. And all that is you can make that a big hat. You can make that a small hat. If you want to make a circle, here's my hand to give you kind of a relationship of size. Yeah. Right, make a little circle, and then a circle within the circle. And this is going to have some nice little flows off of it coming down. I can remind myself that those are there. And again, anywhere that I want to pick up the chalk, I just take that brush with water and clean that up.
Just do a little erasey.
Little erasing.
That's pretty cool.
It is. I think sometimes in painting we feel like everything is so permanent, it's very stressful, and we're not really sure, how we're going to get the result we want. So that's the thing that happens. Now, another color I'm going to put out right now, I'm going to add some yellow ochre to my brown area so that I can put in my hanger. And I will go ahead and I think I'll hold on to this round brush. We'll see how it works for me today. And I'm going to begin with a little of this yellow ochre. And what you're seeing me do is I'll come in here and I'll dip in about midway up the brush. I bring this over and see how I swirl this around. Mm-hmm. This is thinning the paint so that it'll flow off my brush easily. And now I'm going to grab some brown and incorporate that in. And what you see me doing here is rolling the paint out of my brush and then coming back to load the tip. That's how you do that. Now I can come right over my little chalk lines very carefully and begin to lay in that first layer of my hanger. Look at us go. Kind of nice, isn't it? I think it's nice to make this a little whiter at the edges, like the wood was carved out and is a little bit heavier, like those more expensive fashion hangers. Mm-hmm. If you were in a beautiful dress shop or designer shop, they would have quite a nice selection. Now the hat we can start laying in while this is having a dry. And here's the trick. We're going to get a little bit of this turquoise. Now you can see the turquoise of it onto our brush. And let's go ahead and grab some white, the titanium white. We don't need the transparent white quite yet for this. And this first color that we're going to do around this outer circle, and you can see I'm pressing fairly hard. See the bow in the brush, the bend to the bristles, and then I'm tilting my angle in on the brush a little bit, and this is all working together to help me offload my paint smoothly. There we go. Just keep loading up. And you're going to want to come around here until you have a lovely, nice circle. For your hat. I'll fill in. You can see even the circular motion of the brush strokes kind of implies something's happening. I'm going to wipe off my extra paint a bit and just get a little more white. If I need a drop of water, I'll get it to improve the flow. And let's come in the center of this hat. Just a slightly lighter turquoise. I do want it to have a little bit of turquoise into it, just lighter than the main hat. That's going to help me keep those two spaces sort of separate of each other. Now, you can leave a dark little bit here because we're going to be adding flowers and doing all kinds of things. Don't feel like you've got to be too precious about that area. The hanger could use another little color coat, and we're going to take just the ochre and a little white together on the tip, and let's come here and add a little highlight. If I need more water, I'm going to get it so that the paint comes off my brush nicely, right? This is a highlight to help the hanger show up better. There we go. Maybe a little more ochre. You see how that's going? Creating some depth and interest. Let's be sure and come and add a highlight to the top there and then in the front there. That's all we've got to do. We're just trying to create a little highlight. We're just trying to create a little dynamic interest. It's a good time to refine any of these highlights on the hanger now, because once we start putting the dress over it, we're really, really going to have the dress over it. So it'll make it harder. You can kind of see where I'm putting these little highlights to help this hanger pop. Now we pop that hanger. Now go ahead and give it a dry.
Should dry that off real quick. That way you can do next layers and nothing will get stuck. You know, that kind of stuff. So, Yep. So I didn't think it would take her long to dry this. So that's. Oh, she is back. Just as
and sipping my coffee and back. Do we have any questions before we get on to the next thing?
Let me look at what coffee.
Because sometimes when we're new, we have questions, and it's always okay to ask questions when you're new.
You know, I've been paying attention to what's going on here.
I just missed it. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm misting my paint on this glass palette with a little bit of water and a micro mister.
Yeah.
To keep it from drying out on me too fast. It's just one way of many ways to slow down the drying time of your paint. I'm also going to put out some cadmium yellow at this time.
Now, why don't you use the same paint all the time?
Because as an art teacher, I think it's very important that I am very familiar with many, many different brands of paint from all over the world, so I can answer questions about it. I think it's also important that I show you that it's okay to use different brands of paint. The realistic life of an artist is to have several different paints in their paint box. I have craft paint, I have pro paint, I have wash paint, I have watercolor paint. I have so much, and every artist that I know has a mishmash of products that they like. And even among their own everyday acrylic palette, they might like the blue from one company and the yellow from another company, and another company makes their favorite white. And you don't want to become so brand specific that you don't paint to your best experience. So that's why I use a lot of different types of paint.
That makes sense. Helpful. Yeah.
And out. Relax everything. Let's put down our burdens, right? As before we put in our dress, let's put down our burdens and our worries. Then we can pick them up again after the show. Okay, let's paint more. I think this little round brush will be just fine for this. I might want to get a bigger brush as well. So I'm going to grab my number 8 cat's tongue from my TheArtSherpa line. But you could use a filbert, which is just a rounded brush, or you could use a bright. But the thing is, you want a brush about this wide that gives you nice control. That's what you're looking for. I'm going to dip in to my water. I'm going to get a little of my turquoise worked into my brush. You can see how I'm doing that right there. Right? Work that in. Not so much green. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that this pigment is throughout the brush. And then I'm going to grab a nice amount of white. Dip in water if you need to. So see how we're getting the flow ready? To make sure that when I go put my brush to the surface, I get, look at that big, beautiful kind of color mix. Dip in water. Maybe grab some more pure turquoise. Now, these colors underneath are going to be a little bit darker than the white dress above it. And to create that feeling of the white dress, we need this depth. You can see that I am giving myself beautiful sweeping strokes Dip in water. Let's get some more paint. Now, I may not come all the way to the edge because I'm going to be using my zinc and my other techniques to create that light airy effect that I'm going for. But you can see this is painting in quite lovely. Here it goes, loading up. And that's what the goal is. Oh, such a pretty color, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see that we've gotten a beautiful covering over our surface.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very flowing. It implies the fabric and the objects that we're using. And I'm going to come here and just make a nice curve little stroke to imply the bust line. Dip in water to improve flow. The reason I narrate all these little elements is so that you understand how often you might have to be getting a little splash or drop of water or something to give you more control over your paint result. Now I'm going to come in and paint out this nice little waistline. Just enjoy that. There we go. Quite lovely, isn't it? This is also a nice time to see how I come out on this tip of the brush and I swing back and I make a rough brush stroke out. Look at that, rough brush stroke out.
I see.
A little bit down here. This is rough. Wiggle on the edge, on this toe edge here, pulling down, and then as I'm trying to get it to be raw like that, I lift my hand away. Look, very light pressure. I'm not pressing very hard. There we go. So now that's sort of it. How nice is that? Rinse that out. Now let's have some fun. You ready to have a little fun?
Yes.
So we're going to take a bit of our turquoise and a lot of our zinc. Tint white. In this line it's tint white. In most lines it'll be zinc white. So that's the transparent one, right? We're going to come here to the top.
Now I'm going to let everyone know that sound you're hearing is the tree people that have just
down
come.
a tree.
They're
I'll
trimming.
let John let you know before I try to demo that brushstroke.
Super sorry because it's coming through the audio and you can kind of hear this weird wonky sound, and that's what it is. They're trimming the trees behind our house, making a lot of noise. So we apologize.
If you're in an art studio, you might hear these same kind of noises on an art lesson. So it's very authentic ASMR. All right, let's get that zinc on there. And come here and just, can you see how it's very transparent and thin? Now, if you only had the titanium white, just press very lightly. And just know that that gives you just a slightly different effect. I recommend it because it's worth getting and you can find inexpensive options of it. So see how I'm just very lightly on the toe of the brush? And this is the hardest part for you as a new painter, is being okay with your messy strokes. Not that messy strokes are hard to do. It's hard to be okay with messy strokes. So one of the ways I get that is I push forward in the brush. See how I'm pushing against the hair of the brush, pushing it forward. Come here and do a similar thing. Those first little messy strokes, right? A little bit there. Start to imply that beautiful draping. Draping is fun. You can see I'm coming down here with just this. And I do try to pay attention to the direction of the fabric and the way it goes. Now let's come here to the hip, and this is like one of my favorite parts, and go up. Look at that. Just so much fun. I need a little more of my aqua on here. Isn't that wonderful? So just these fun little brutish strokes. This would be like tulle or very delicate fabric that is kind of exiting the dress and coming out some different directions. Come here again. Oh, that's quite, very turquoise, but that's okay. You go with that. It has just a very light stroke. And then I'm letting these edges be rough. And you can see how the transparency just makes it feel like it could be like tulle or something. Coming here, again, adding that tulle feeling to that color. Fun stuff. I'm going to grab just a lot more white onto my brush. Maybe even play with that part, or hat a bit. Fun stuff. I'm going to rinse out. And I'm going to grab just my zinc, but it's got that little turquoise pink pigment on it. And I'm going to come here and begin to talk about these layers of this dress. See, I'm pulling that down. How are you guys doing?
This is great. I had my, I was a little muted there for a minute.
I am pulling these down and we're being rough.
Rough. I was noticing you say brutish.
Brutish.
I was surprised you used that as a descriptor on your
this beautiful, delicate dress, right?
Yeah.
But we're pushing the brush around and we're letting it go where it may. This is something that I think fashion illustrators really are able to do, which is just let their tools express form and motion and texture. I think that they're fantastic at that. Just doing wonderful. Maybe get a little more green and touch of the yellow in there and get right into that zinc and come here underneath. I'm going to wipe off because I got a little heavy on the paint. You see that slight green value that we're working right there.
I'm going to bring the picture in for a little bit so we can just kind of see that.
I'm going to grab a little of my turquoise.
Oh, you're over there.
Load it up into my brush. Right underneath that bust line is quite nice. You can even come here like this. We're going to brush stroke that. Just enjoy. Right there down the center, making nice darker little fabrics. I'm going to come here and apply a tie, dipping my brush in water because the flow is problematic right now. And I'm going to make another little dark little bulb there. We'll be hitting it with the white highlight, but we want it to show up. So by making it a little bit dark there, that'll help. I'm here just enjoying those opportunities to make the color. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get a little of my yellow into my brush and quite a lot of my zincs. Tinting. It's just half a dozen of another. I'm going to add a little of this to my little lifts. Yeah.
Now you're putting some of those highlights in.
Just a few, and we haven't even gotten into the titanium white highlights, which is where we get some powerful, powerful effects.
Mm-hmm.
But this is taking advantage of the delicate nature of this particular paint. Really helps us express the delicate nature of the fabric. It's the play between the two of them that we are really looking to get. And you can see, but again, if you just have one, then you're just doing this subtly and in stages. Grab a lot of white. Add this to the little hat space a bit.
You're going to refine that hat a little bit.
Just a little. Now I may come back with just a pitch of my aqua around the brim. But you can see it's very soft and gentle. And because the zinc is so transparent, I can very easily soften it, you can see. And I don't have to struggle to do that. I'm rinsing out some more of the yellow in my zinc tint mixing, whichever you've got. I come here and pull across. Very light. The trick is you want a little yellow to peek out, but you don't want it to be too bright. So can you see how I'm just offloading? In other words, offloading. When I say offloading, I mean removing paint from my brush. Get what's left of our little transparent white and come here and make sure that we've got. Yeah, I went a little loop. So I'm implying that things are tied. Imply that little bits of fabric and loose wonderfulness is there.
Stephanie would like to know which black you're using.
Which what?
Which black?
When I use black, I haven't pulled it out yet, but when I use black, I have Mars black. But right now, this is all we have in the palette. We have the burnt umber, the phthalo blue, the yellow ochre, the titanium white, the cad yellow medium, a little tint white, which is also zinc white mixing white, and then a little phthalo green, which we've mixed with phthalo blue to make a phthalo turquoise. That's where we're at right now. We use these two together to make this background color, which feels like it's black, but it's not. All right, now we're going to get into it. So we've got this white right here, as you do.
As you do.
As you do. And I'm going to take just a smidge, maybe of the yellow and the turquoise, and mix this wonderful color here. And I'm going to get right into this. And let's come here and make some very strong, look at these, I'm on the tip of my brush. Little tool lines, look at that. Doesn't that look like stiff little fabric now?
And you're even leaving a little paint on there. Kind of impasto-y.
Yeah, why not? Because the texture is just wonderful. Texture is wonderful. And you can't do this too much. It's just too much. You just got to have fun with it, you know? Lots of white in it because we're lightening the dress. There we go. See the stroke pulling? I pull it and pull. I place it and pull. I have fun. Very lightly making marks here. Now I may need to take my dress to the side to get a nice brush stroke that flows well. I'll always grab a little yellow. That helps sometimes my white appear more white. And I'm on the toe. I'm not pressing very hard. And I'm using the brush stroke to imply the flow of the fabric. You can make it rough and loose like it might be on this dress. Coming down here. Look at that. Sweep. And then back in and sweep. Dance your brush across your canvas. You've not painted before, don't worry, like this takes a second to get used to, but it's doable. Doable. That's what's important. All right, let's come here and maybe I want a little more yellow in that. There we go. A little highlight right here. Dry brush, that means I don't have a lot of water on my brush. And I just pull that across. And then let's add a little, that's too much paint on my brush. So I offload it and come get just on the tip. A little highlight right here and here. As you do. And let's, aren't those wonderful? You can see the very opaque strokes, how they play against these little transparent strokes. Give this some extra fashion flair, right?
Ooh, yeah. Some flair.
There you go. That's a little extra flash and flare. Into our hat, dipping in water now, improving the flow. And then come to the front of the hat. And you can see I'm curving my brush stroke around. Isn't that nice? And that just implies that the hat's there.
Yeah.
And then let's come in the center. It's nice to let some of the paint underneath really show through, isn't it? Because that really helps our hat come into bearing. Just a little bit of the yellow. If you have Hansa yellow instead of Cad yellow, you may not, it's a much more transparent yellow, so it might not be as hard to control that yellow outcome. I'm dipping in water to improve the flow off my brush.
To control that yellow outcome. That's funny.
So I am on the tiptoe, almost just pressing this hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trick on my round brush. Get these little delicate marks that feel like tulle and fabric. That's how we do that. Come here and just, again, on the toe. The brush, I haven't applied the paint thickly. It's very light. It's very airy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fun. Pretty lovely. Now, this is a great time to go through and just find anything that you might want to. You can see I'm making this sort of soft right here at this waist.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's going to help it before I even put those little flowers in to feel like that waist is gathered in the way that we're wanting it to be. And now we're going to get in to the best part of the painting, in my opinion, which is the leaves and the flowers.
I think that's what I've been waiting for, too.
Now, you've got to remember, you've got a little cluster of them here, a little cluster flowing down here, and then, of course, all around the hat. So let's start first with a little yellow in our brush. I've dipped in water. Let's work that yellow into the brush so that it's thoroughly there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dip in water, thoroughly there. Let's get our green into this. I'm going to leave that green, this first run of green, pretty dark. I'm going to just touch my brush in. See, leaf. I'm just touching those little leaves. Touch. A little leaf here coming down. One in, one there. These are the dark leaves that we're going to be seeing. And then right here, maybe a leaf. This will peek out. The red will peek out around these little green leaves, and it'll create depth before we even put the highlight leaves in. So I went pull, pull. See how they're little touches?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty nice, isn't it? Loading up. So you see me roll the brush out, pulling in the tip, roll out, pull in the tip. Let's come here to the hat. Put a couple little dots all around this little circle. Could be thicker right there. Maybe a few little dark leaves coming down. And a couple there. And these will definitely be coming down. And I may actually move this way so that when I do these leaves, see how they're pulling in the right direction. It's easier than trying to do that upside down.
So,
and I'm going to just...
What do you mean there?
Follow that stroke. So if I try to do it like this, I have to hold the brush up like this.
Oh, to get the tip of the brush to make that leaf shape.
So why work against myself?
And that's so you can, I'm going to watch you plant the brush so they can see.
Yeah. So by moving it the way I want, I can use the natural shape of the brush, which is pointed, and I can pull back, and it's going to be just a little more leafy.
Ah, that makes so much sense. It's all in how you use the brush.
It does make a big difference. So sometimes when we're new to painting, if we don't have a good tutorial, we could get the mistaken impression we weren't good at it just because we didn't know to flip the canvas over to get a better leaf shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your art teacher is really for, just to remind you to do these little things so that you can be the awesome, creative, beautiful being that you are.
So
there we go. Look at that. Now I'm going to not rinse out. I'm going to wipe off, dip in water, and get quite a lot of my yellow onto it. See this?
I see.
Just a lot of that. And let's go around adding some of these little highlights.
And again, you're moving the brush to take advantage of that natural shape.
I'm working my shapes because I want to imply that it's nice and plant-like, right? So anytime you see me doing that, I'm just trying to make sure. Isn't that fun?
I think so.
Rolling out so that it's on the tip of the brush. We're still green. Let's come from the bottom here. See how I go pull, pull, dot, 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 dot. Those like long little trailing dots are quite important. I can pull a bigger, fatter leaf by pressing harder as I come up. If I press harder and pull, that's a bigger, fatter leaf. It's a bigger, fatter leaf.
And you're really using the non-mixed paint on your brush to your advantage.
Yes, we are not thoroughly mixing the paint. We are lightly mixing the paint.
And that gets a marbled brush look.
It does. And sometimes those multi-dimensional colors and feelings help the painting seem even more resolved and considered. Let's do some here. Again, tip that out. See how we're doing? Take all your green away. Because you still want some good green, so if you need to put it back, put it back. So I was able to put that right back, right? There we go. I'm going to flip this around so I have a nice time over here as well. Make sure we've got a couple there. And for sure, we need some there. Ah, wonderful. Rinse out super thoroughly. You may need fresh water so that your next colors aren't dull. I'm going to dry this with a hairdryer.
Okay.
Then we'll take any question that you have before I show you how to put in the flowers as the last and finishing touch.
Okay. So, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. This has been pretty cool. I really like this little dress. She's really getting close on this. We're just now down to the little flowery bits. I will scroll up. I saw a bunch of good questions, so I just got to make sure I can scroll up and get to them while she's doing that, because I've been very busy switching today, as you guys have seen. So, there she is, back. There were some good questions up here earlier.
Oh,
but
excellent.
I forgot.
You forgot them?
So I'm just going to scroll up and find them.
Oh, that's okay, because I wanted to sip a little coffee and contemplate what I'm doing next between my deep colors and my light, bright colors to get those pops. It's kind of nice even in greenery.
Yeah. Well,
and from here, you could do blue flowers. You could do purple flowers. You can match this to any of your decor. You could do like peach or pink flowers. There's literally no limit.
Oh, so do you use a wet palette ever?
I don't, but there's nothing wrong with doing so.
And oh, that's what I saw earlier. Essa was asking, how did you get inspired for this? I saw that when I meant to ask myself, like, where did this come from?
Where did this come from?
Because I mean, like, I knew you got some friends in fashion world.
I do. I've had the pleasure of meeting Zoe Hung, who's now one of the judges on Doodle Wars.
Zoe's cool. She's probably with a cooler, like.
Yeah. She's a really amazing fashion illustrator. I've always loved fashion art. I think as girls we grow up, we love it. And periodically, I think through the history of the channel, I have dropped pieces that were definitely inspired by fashion art, fashion illustration. I have several artists that I follow on Pinterest, and there are several designers that I follow. I think I have some Pinterest boards of some of those too. And then of course on Instagram, I follow the dot competition, and I like to see what's happening with Marquesa, which Zoe turned me on to, like, because they do an illustration. It's just a fascinating, rich art place. And this particular one, I just wanted something that was like that, as if you were just like floating on a cloud,
Yeah.
right? Like to imagine a girl like a southern girl. It would be a southern girl floating on a cloud.
Hmm.
That was not as bad as my Australian accent, but yet not good. All right. So I've got my cadmium red and my uh, fuchsia. This is quinacridone fuchsia, which is also quinacridone magenta.
Hmm.
So
Good to
same
know.
color, same. You're all good. But to get to my dark purple is going to be very interesting. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to mix my red and my pink kind of color together, and they make this really fascinating color. But to get the first run of deep flowers, I will mix in the turquoise that I made. Is that not fascinating? And it's going to make this sort of weird deep purple. And I'm going to make sure that I put in a couple of these deep values. And you can see I'm having to if I'm going to do it in the upright, how do I have to tilt the brush? I have to tilt it at a very strong angle to the canvas.
Mm.
So just demoing both of those things. Right there. Let's put some dark values here. Dark values help the painting really pop. It's that contrast. Now this I definitely will want to enjoy that.
Rotate.
Yeah. So letting these ones peek out. And you can see it doesn't necessarily look like a pretty color when you first do it, but then when you get it here, you're like, oh, that's a really nice wine burgundy. Where did that come from? Yeah. You got to watch the split primary palette.
That's a good video.
It is. There we go. Can you see that I'm pulling these but spacing these out?
Yeah.
You're pulling and pulling and pulling, and then maybe you put a friend next to it. And then as I come down, I might get a little more delicate, softer with those strokes. See, and if I push softer, those little strokes are smaller. And while this is upside down, I can go ahead and take advantage of that angle.
Get the angles while you can get them.
While you can get them, just pulling some of these down, not all the way down. I don't want the deep to be so deep. And then just a few of these little darker spots coming around the hat, but mostly concentrated right here at the back. Rinse that out thoroughly.
You're using a tempered glass palette. Is that correct?
Yes, by New Wave. I have the peel palette that I love from them in the description below, but you can search any of their products. They sent us a bunch and we tested them and we really like them. Though the originals, I found myself at Texas Art Supply and bought to see what it was about.
But that's why that's so shiny.
Yes, that's why it's so shiny. It's a tempered glass palette. I just wipe it down and clean it off right after the painting session. Now I'm going to mix the quinacridone and the Cad Red Medium together in a 1-to-1 mixture, and that's going to give me my mid-tone red. And that'll be the next little bunch of dots that I'm going to make. And these will be smaller. Understand that every time you touch the brush to the surface, that is a little bud.
Mm.
Think of it as a little flower bud. That's a little flower that you have. So there's a nice little cluster there, and then we tap them down smaller. I do tend to do some bigger and some smaller. Loading back up again.
And you're leaving lots of paint on the surface there too.
Yes, I am painting very thick. I'm enjoying the heavy-bodied nature of my paint. I might leave a space where there aren't a concentration of flowers, but I do try to have them there. Come over to the hat. Let's put a couple little small dots on the hat. And then as we come through, we can press harder. Maybe a couple right here, and then it can be a space, and then it gets more concentrated. We are nearly done. We only have a layer or two left.
I know.
Bring a little dot of them down here. Can you guys see the dress that this would be in your mind, like how this would look?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't this be just an incredible garden party dress? Spread a little bunch of those up. And of course, I'm going to take this over. And here we go. Maybe a few can fly up there. And you can see how those dark buds underneath help these lighter and lighter buds really show through. Remember, make small marks and heavier marks because flowers do that, right? They have petals that are turned to you, petals that are facing you. If they're facing you, they're wider. If they're turned away, they're more removed in profile, so they're a little harder to see. They give you a smaller surface, and you can be expressive and paint that effect by just simply making bigger and smaller marks. A little magenta and a little cat. One of my very favorite color mixes. Oh, it makes me happy every time I see it. Now let's come down here and I'm going to trail some of these little buds back that way. Now let's rinse out vigorously. And the reason we go back to the beginning is we're letting each surface get a little bit of a tack dry going so that when you come to put the next layer on, it's dry enough where the paint will stick. Now I'm going to get some Just Cad. Are you ready for this? Just Cad.
I'm ready.
Because this is where it happens. And I'm going to just touch. There we go. Look at that, just the Cad. You could use a Naphthol Red Medium if you didn't have the Cad.
It is pretty powerful.
But true cadmium is its own unique thing. There we go. Pull those around here. Curving that in. Oh, let's paint it the hat. Oh, there you go. Now you can see why that lime green is so fun against this red. It pops so much. Little petals coming down. All right, let's finish this off. Really loading up our brush and just enjoying the journey. I'm going to turn it back up to finish it off at the waist here, but for the long run of this garland, I'm going to go ahead and have it in our ideal transport mode. Same thing, bigger marks, petals facing you, flowers facing you, thin marks are either buds or petals in profile. And we can imply all those things are happening in this really loose and expressive manner, but yet still have a lot of control in conversation about what all of these are about. Oh, there they go. Aren't they gorgeous? Trailing off. Now let's give ourselves some little up top flowers that we're enjoying. You can do it different every time. Okay. Rinse out. And now you get to do the business of signing. Oh, there's a weird computer thing on my screen. What's that?
Sorry.
Is that like everywhere or just on me?
Just on you. Sorry.
Okay, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Like,
Do I need to see it?
Bro.
Is it important? All right, we need to find a signing brush. Now, a signing brush is generally a nice small detail brush that gives us the ability to make a signature in control. Sometimes people get nervous about that because they don't feel like their handwriting is particularly good or they're not really sure how to sign their painting. I think it's nice to use a last name can be wonderful to sign a painting. In the past, that's what I've done. Sometimes people like a symbol or a nickname. Whatever you do, you just kind of want to stick with it. Try to make it where it doesn't take over the whole painting. You don't want your signature to become the composition because you just spent a while trying to make this, so the signature shouldn't overtake it. So my advice is to get a small detail brush. This is a number 1 monogram liner. And I'm going to go ahead and get some white loaded onto there and maybe some of my turquoise so that I've got that nice color that will show up against the background, but was very persistent through the whole painting. Now I can sign here or here. I think for this piece, I'm inclined to come sign right here because I think it will be nice and lovely and not pull away from everything that we've worked hard for. And I will just sign Sherpa as I do. So you can see it's legible, but it's not the whole painting. All right, what do we think? We've painted this gorgeous fashion dress. How awesome are we? I'm ready to turn it around.
All right.
There we go. Okay. Got to go to that screen in the thing. All right. So look at that. How did you do? Do you feel good about where you got? Now remember, it's not about being perfect because there isn't perfect in art. It's not about having every single brushstroke be exactly like mine because you're an individual, not a copy machine. So look at your painting with kind eyes. If it's your very first painting, I want you to pat yourself on the back because just completing is the biggest first step in getting back into an art adventure that you can do all the time. So remember to be excited. If you'd like to share that painting with John and I, there's a bunch of places you can do that. You can share it on the web page where this, where the traceable and everything is held. You can share it on any of our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and we have a Facebook group that's very safe and curated where you can come and talk to friends and share there. If you check the iCard, you will see other projects you can do and a link to our second channel where we have 24 hours of calm, relaxing music playing round the clock, which I think is pretty cool. And we'll be adding to that all the time. So if you just need a chill out space, that's where it is. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.